Independent retail business can mean so many things these days. A brick and mortar store, an e-commerce business, a maker's online shop, a booth at an antique mall, and more. No matter which category you're in, Kathy Cruz, a fellow retail business owner and retail educator, will teach you how to market and manage your business efficiently so you can spend time doing other things you love. Welcome to the Savvy Shopkeeper Podcast.
Welcome to episode 29 of the Savvy Shopkeeper Retail Podcast. Resetting your business is an opportunity. I'm your host, Kathy Cruz. My intention for this episode is to get you to take a step back, think about what was and wasn't working in your business prior to COVID-19, what's working well now, what needs to be changed, and why resetting your business should be viewed as an opportunity. It's actually kind of an exciting time for some of us, even with everything that's going on. First, I want to start off with a shopkeeper shout out. It's for Katie of Brothers Honey Company, or Co. I don't know how she says it, but we'll be sure to have it linked in the show notes if you want to visit her website. Katie titled her podcast review, Real Content Feels Like a Heart-to-Heart with a Mentor. Katie says, I've been part of Kathy's Facebook group for what seems like forever. And it has from day one been the place I could turn for encouragement, help, and support from others in the retail world. Kathy's heart is clearly shown, and her desire to support other women in retail is such a breath of fresh air. I binge listened to all of season 1 this weekend on a road trip, and my only regret is that I was driving and couldn't take notes. I already know that I will be referring back to this podcast frequently. It's full of real content, no fluff, and no judgment. Thank you, Kathy, for putting the time in to create this community and podcast. We appreciate you. Katie, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I always find it so interesting that people tell me that they listen, but they know they're going to listen again. So my guess is that you find value in it. And if you're like me, sometimes I have to go back and read a book a second time, like Profit First. For sure, I had to read that book a second time. But the second time I read it, it actually clicked. So I get it. Thank you for listening. All right, let's move on to this episode. And I have it broken down into 3 sections: reflect, analyze, and plan. So the first one is to reflect. And I want you to reflect on your business overall prior to the pandemic. I want you to think about your personality type, because if you reflect back on this time, maybe you learned that you're an introvert and prefer not to be surrounded by people, that you actually enjoy working from home or the quiet time. Or maybe you identified that you're an extrovert and you miss all of the engagement with your customers and you thrive off of that. The next thing you can think about is your e-commerce store and shipping. Maybe you're wondering like, gosh, why did I wait so long to set up my online shop? I could have been really successful with it a year ago had I just dedicated the time to it. And trust me, I know setting up an online shop takes a ton of work. I went through it with my sister, and it took months and months of getting it all up and running. So by no means am I suggesting that it was an easy process or it is an easy process. But these are the things that you're going to reflect on. And you might be thinking, like, moving forward, that if you invest a little more time into your online shop, that it would be well worth the time, that there's definitely a return on investment there. Maybe it was shipping. Maybe you thought that you didn't have the skill set, or that shipping was too hard, and now you're shipping. And again, you're thinking, why didn't I start that earlier? Shipping can be challenging, especially when you first start learning the ins and outs, trying to figure out which boxes to use. So I do offer a shipping ebook in the Shopkeepers Academy. We'll link it in the show notes. But if you reflect back on it, what worked with it, what didn't work, how can you make it better? The next thing is maybe teaching online versus in person. So many shopkeepers in our communities teach workshops. And maybe you're realizing that shifting to an online platform works really well for your customers. Maybe they prefer it. I'm pleasantly surprised with our own online workshops, how well they're doing. And yeah, it might be because of the times, it might be because of the quarantine, but it might also be because people love it. And people prefer to just be home, comfy in their PJs or, yoga pants, watching you teach a class online. Another thing you can reflect about is services. Maybe you added a service or eliminated a service. One member in our community learned that custom monogramming isn't as profitable or efficient, a good use of her time, I should say. So she's eliminating that from her business. So again, think about your services. Is there something you added that you should keep? Is there something that you realized during all of this that you should be cutting out? You can reflect about team members. You can reflect about maybe some of the team members that you let go that, and I hate to say it, but maybe it was relief to let them go. Maybe you've thought about who your future team members would be. Maybe you've identified some of the values in your business or your core focus, which I talked about in the episode before this, or your mission. And now you have some really clear guidelines on who you want to be on your team in the future. You want to reflect on this because you want to get really focused on the type of employee you want to hire. There's another master shopkeeper who recently said, "You're only as good as the support you have around you." Then she added, even if it includes yourself. So maybe you want to think about yourself as a business owner. Maybe you want to think about the things that you've learned, where you can improve. Maybe there's an online course that you want to take. Maybe you want to join Master Shopkeepers so that you can really become the best brick and mortar business owner you can be. But you want to reflect on those things. It could be inventory. I saw so many people say that DIY kits and puzzles, really masks. And again, some of these things might be temporary in terms of inventory that's selling, but they might not be. So think about that. Think about, is it a category that you want to bring into the store because you think it'll continue to do well, but you never considered carrying that category before? Maybe there are categories that you identified just move really slow in your business, and now you want to eliminate those. You want to reflect upon finances and business lessons. And if you go back and listen to episodes 25 and 26, it's a list of 11 business lessons I learned or I confirmed were really important in my business throughout the pandemic. The next one are values, which I've talked about, essablishing your values. Maybe it's working less hours. Maybe you realize that over the past few months, you enjoyed the extra days home. It could be anything. Maybe you enjoy more family time. Maybe you realize that at 5 o'clock when you close the store and you go home, it's really important that you cut off all social media and emails. So maybe it's establishing boundaries and setting up autoresponders so that your customers realize that once you get home, it's turned off for you. Business is turned off. It doesn't mean you can't provide excellent customer service, but you have to establish boundaries. It could be your brand or your why. It's important for customers to know this. And again, I briefly touched on this in episode 28. And that was a nice short episode, the one before this, if you want to listen. The next one is maybe you've identified that you have perfection paralysis. And a couple of master shopkeepers mentioned this this past week, that things have to be perfect in order for them to launch something or move forward with something or do something. I love that one of them said that they mistook this for laziness or procrastination, and they didn't realize they were just waiting for things to be perfect to move on it. So it doesn't make you lazy. You're not a procrastinator, but maybe you need to realize that not everything is perfect, and sometimes you just have to push through and move forward with stuff. The new sponsor for this podcast is the Shopkeepers Academy. Tell me if you can relate to this as a shopkeeper. You crave sisterhood from other retail shop owners going through the same thing. You desperately search online for tools or education that will help you get ahead as a business owner, but Google is exhausting because you're busy running a business. And when you do find resources online, it isn't tailored to your type of business, an independent retail store. You need the guidance of lessons and information that empower you to keep your business afloat, or better yet, thriving in this stressful world. That's where the Shopkeepers Academy comes in. The Shopkeepers Academy is an online platform that was built specifically for independent retail business owners. It's a one-stop shop to sign up for education and community. Whether you want to grab an affordable ebook like a 9-page shipping guide, or get access to a comprehensive list of lessons by subscribing to the Shopkeepers Learning Lab, or if you want to join Master Shopkeepers, and that's a paid mastermind group of brick and mortar store owners you'll know that every option in the Academy was designed for you, the independent retail business owner. I want to help all brick and mortar retailers work less and profit more. Is this what you want too? Visit shopkeepersacademy.com for more information. And the last one I have on the list in terms of reflecting is your mission or your focus. So this is something I actually did with Savvy Shopkeeper, and I'll be talking about, I think, in episode 30. So listen for that. But there might be a shift in terms of what your mission is for the business or what the focus is in your business. These are all things that I know people have identified or reflected on since the pandemic hit. And I think it's really important. I also think it's great. I think it's great that you're all reflecting about these things. I think it's fantastic that you're all having so many realizations because now is the time to act on it. Now, if you reflected on some things, but you haven't taken the time to analyze them, that's the next step, is analyze it. What's working now? Look at your inventory categories. Look at your profit and loss statement. Journal about some of these experiences. It might amaze you when you start to write in a journal, or even if you just take a Word document and start typing things out. If there's something that you're trying to figure out, like you're reflecting on it in the business and you know you should be doing something, but you don't know which direction to head in or what the issue was, journal about it. I think that's a great tool for figuring things out. It might be you're journaling about the emotions. It might be you're journaling about your processes. It could be so many things. It might be about what your customers have said or done. So take the time to analyze all of the things that you've been thinking about in terms of the business. Figure out why it's working. What's working now versus what was working back then. Look at the data. Determine, is it temporary or permanent? But until you actually look a little bit deeper, you can't really analyze what's been happening, I guess. What's resulting in profit or loss? If you flourished during this time, go back and look at your profit and loss statement. Go back and look at your financials. Go back and look at the categories and see what did really well and what didn't, or what you might have done in terms of social media or Facebook Lives. That's the one probably the one place people look at the most are their insights on Instagram and Facebook. And that can really shed some light on your strategy with social media, the way you're connecting with your customers, what you're posting that they love. And then maybe analyze too what were you giving away? Were you doing too much? Were you giving away too much of your time? Were you spending too much time in one area and it wasn't worth spending the time there? So many things to think about. And once you have all of those things written down and you have all of your numbers and all of your data, the next step is to plan. So use what you've reflected about, what you analyzed, so that you can plan for the future. And this is really where change happens. And then once you make those decisions about what to do in your business, maybe you're pivoting, maybe you're adding something, maybe you're eliminating something, maybe you're setting really clear boundaries for your customers, maybe you're setting really clear rules for your employees and team members. Whatever it is that you decide, don't apologize for it. Make sure you embrace it. It took a lot to get to this point. It took a lot of struggles, a lot of angst, a lot of being on a roller coaster ride to get to where we are now, and to really just sit back and reflect and think about the direction you want to take your business in. And when you start implementing those changes, of course, no one likes change. But again, I don't want you to apologize for it, and I definitely want you to embrace it. I want you to own it. I want you to be the boss about it. I want you to write it down and create processes and systems around it so that you don't go back to your old ways. So to summarize, you have to learn, you have to take the time to reflect and write those things down that you realized over the past few months. Do not let those opportunities to learn go away. Don't take those aha moments where you were in your store and you thought about something and you thought, why didn't I do that before? Why am I not doing this in the future? Don't let that go. Then make sure you analyze the data or journal or dig deeper into your reflections. And then the next is to plan, to write down and map out what you need to do to move forward. For those of us that have pushed through and survived, take pride, consider it a blessing because we're still here, pat yourself on the back, and by all means, take the time to strategize because you have an opportunity right now to do some amazing things with your brick and mortar business. If you push through, if you survived this crazy time, and I know we're still in it, and I know we're not out yet, but if you're still with me, there's a reason. If you want to see the show notes to this episode or find links to anything I mentioned, you can visit my blog at savvyshopkeeper.com/episode 29. And that's savvyshopkeeper.com/episode 29. If you feel this episode could help a friend or someone you know, please share it. You can also leave a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts. I know these episodes can help so many other shopkeepers, and if you share and leave a review on the podcast app, it's one of the best ways that I can reach other small business owners. So until the next episode, be savvy and boss up.